So it's been a little bit since we've gotten access to Hawkmoon's random rolls. I'm sure everyone's been farming and getting your ideal roll, but I was really curious as to what the true best all-around roll, not exactly specializing in one area or another, of course that's up to your preference, but what the best min-max roll looks like, the best of all traits you want to be caring about. While farming for Hawkmoon, I kind of realized, of course, getting all these different rolls, that it's actually pretty difficult to get a truly bad roll of this weapon. There are an assortment, a wide assortment of really great trait perks and some really good stat modifiers that can be mixed and matched and put together like a puzzle depending on what you value. What really sparked my thought or idea of trying to figure out what this best min-max roll would look like started with the range stat. I wanted to know how big of a difference each of these range perks were making, at least in terms of things that we can really quantify easily, like damage drop-off. I know range is not only responsible for this, but for all intents and purposes and things that we can truly quantify, we're going to be mainly looking at that. Of course, there are barrels like Corkscrew and Small Bore that give us multiple benefits. Either Corkscrew with a slight boost to handling, stability, and range, or Small Bore with a slightly higher boost to just stability and range. But we also have things like Hammerforge, which forego the other two benefits, other stats, and just give us higher range boosts. And then Full Bore, which ultimately get rid of some stability, so diminish other stats, but give us the greatest boost to range. So my question was, is it worth foregoing the barrels that give multiple stat bonuses in favor of just ones that give us a massive range bonus, especially with the current climate of the metagame, with 120 hand cannons being very popular and high range? And I think previously this would have been a discussion mainly oriented towards controller players, but now with the stability changes on mouse and keyboard, this could potentially be more relevant for mouse and keyboard players as well. So I tested each of the barrels for their range, and I tried to be as exact as possible, and as I've said in previous videos, Darcy does not give us exact measurements, it's only meter by meter, so I had to kind of use my best judgment to round between each meter for the most exact measurement. So starting with Corkscrew Barrel, this had a range of 31.2 meters before getting any sort of damage drop off. Of course, Corkscrew does boost your handling, stability, and range all by +5. The next one up was Small Bore, which boosted our range to 31.5 meters. This is a higher boost of stability and range, +7 in each category for just a little bit more range, so 0.3 meters. Hammerforged and by proxy Extended Barrel, both of them giving +10 range, was really interesting because it didn't seem like it was giving any better range than Small Bore with its +7. This gave us 31.5 meters of optimal damage range, the same once again as Small Bore, interestingly enough. This could be a case of human error where there's just a little slight difference, but if I have to be that minuscule with it, and I'm already trying to be as exact as possible, so I don't think it's making a big enough difference. Of course, range is responsible for your accuracy on your weapon as well, which we'll talk about a little later, but again, a very minuscule difference. Hammerforge with Rangefinder though had 34.5 meters of optimal damage range, and Full Bore, which is a +15 to range, -10 stability, gave me a damage range of 32.5 meters. This is essentially 1 whole meter extra over Small Bore, which is a +7. So that 8 range difference, making a difference of about 1 meter. And unfortunately, I don't have a Full Bore rangefinder roll, but to estimate the numbers in this regard, I believe rangefinder is known as a 10% boost to range. When I ran my numbers here, it was closer to 9%. So for the sake of accuracy in this case, I'm just running it through 9% extra range, which gives us 35.5 meters of optimal range. The biggest takeaway from all these barrels and the range testing is it doesn't seem like there's a big enough difference or influence from the bigger range boosts, especially Hammerforge, which is the +10 flat to range with no cost, from other barrels like Small Bore and Corkscrew that are benefiting more attributes to the weapon other than just range. It's comparable enough that you can take the slight loss and go for Small Bore, or in some cases like with Hammerforge, a negligible difference, and still be getting other traits boosted as well. Most importantly, of course, being stability, because your stability and weapon control can affect your performance at range and your ability to shoot accurately the majority of the time, as well as stops your aim assist cone from shrinking while shooting. In the case of full bore, as much as it may still be a good option for mouse and keyboard players, even post stability changes, I don't think it's worth giving up +7 stability for an additional 1 meter of range. And yes, like I said, range isn't just damage drop off. It's going to affect the accuracy of your weapon as well. So if you love the feel of the weapon with higher range, if that clicks with you, then go for it. But as it stands currently, I don't think even with the accuracy influence, it's worth going for these higher range changes, because stability is equally as important and influential, and you want to have the best combination of both as high as possible. And I think out of these barrels, it's really small bore and corkscrew that are allowing us to truly min-max on all the important areas of the weapon. Now let's talk a bit about stability. I compared my 82 stability Hawkmoon to my 73 stability Hawkmoon, one of them with heavy grip and small bore, the 82 stability one, and the other one with small bore only with combat grip, affecting the recoil stat of the weapon, of course. At first, I completely dismissed combat grip. I didn't think a 4-point difference in recoil direction was going to be influential at all, and wasting an entire perk slot on a +4-point difference did not seem useful at all, until I tried it, where I saw actually a very minuscule difference between the 82 stability and 73 stability Hawkmoon's height of the recoil. The stability stat itself doesn't affect the direction of the recoil, just how tightly packed the shots are, and there wasn't that big of a difference in terms of how high the recoil actually went, in my opinion. And Hawkmoon's recoil without combat grip was a lot more inconsistent horizontally, which is a problem. You want consistent recoil, you want it to be entirely vertical, even if it is a little bit more, and combat grip gave that to us. Combat grip made the recoil consistently vertical. Again, even if it is a little bit more recoil, that's fine, because it's easier to combat vertical recoil, consistent vertical predictable recoil, than it is to combat sporadic horizontal movements. It's weirder to compensate for, especially on controller, and it's weirder to anticipate. So combat grip is actually, I think, the best thing to be going for to increase your recoil direction stat from 96 to 100. So where does this leave us now? Of course, let's talk about the rolls on the Hawkmoon. So my predicted best all-around roll from way back when Hawkmoon was released without random rolls, I said was extended barrel or small bore plus heavy grip. This gives us a stat spread of either 66 range, 76 stability, 100 recoil, and 56 handling with extended barrel, or with small bore, 63 range, 82 stability, 96 recoil, and 65 handling. As much as my theory crafted predictions weren't terrible, I can certainly say that they were off. The best all-around min-max roll of the Hawkmoon after testing is going to be either small bore or corkscrew, preferably small bore with combat grip. And we'll talk just a little bit about the trait perks. I'm not going to talk too much about the trait perks because I want to make a whole video about it, where I would like to make a tier list actually with in-depth explanations to each of the trait perks available on the Hawkmoon, whereas this video is more stat modifier oriented. But I will say that I think opening shot, rangefinder, as well as Eye of the Storm are the top 3 picks for the best roll possible. There are other perks that are very good, and I'll go in depth on that in the next video most likely. But getting any of these 3 combined with small bore and combat grip ensures that you will have the best roll possible, in my opinion. My proposed ideal or best min-max Hawkmoon roll would have a stat line of 63 range, 73 stability, 74 handling, 100 recoil direction, and of course that would give it a range of 34.2 meters without damage drop off. With rangefinder, of course, or the first shot where opening shot is active. Without it, it would be 31.5 meters. There is an alternate route to getting the same behavior as this roll, and that's with extended barrel and heavy grip, which would give us 66 range, 76 stability, 56 handling, and 100 recoil. The problem with this roll, although it's still very good and will behave similarly, is that it has 18 less handling because of the downsides of extended barrel and heavy grip. It does have +3 in range and stability. I don't think that's making a massive difference, or in the range case, we know not really any difference at all. But if you're looking for an alternate roll and you don't want to farm for this one specifically, you might be okay with this, even though it is still just a half step lesser in my opinion. I thought I'd also address maybe some of the problems with the high range roll on this weapon. The highest range roll with this weapon with full bore and heavy grip would have 70 range, 67 stability, 60 handling, and 96 recoil direction. So it has only 1 meter extra range, which is nice, I suppose, plus 1 meter on our ideal roll, but I don't think that's enough to make up for the 6 lower stability and horizontal recoil on top of that, and 14 less handling. So I don't think this is really worth it, and this is why our ideal or best min-max roll would be better than this. So that's everything I have to say about getting the most ideal Hawkmoon roll, or stats, I should say more specifically. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you'd like to come by and say hi on Twitch and rant with me or have some talks about Destiny, you can check me out at twitch.tv/Drewskys. I hope to see you there, but otherwise, thank you guys for watching the video. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.